Hello and welcome to Half Sick of Shadows, episode 3. We have some very exciting special guests here with us tonight. Um, why don't we just let you two introduce yourself? We'll start with Ronnie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ronnie. I am an avid player of all kinds of ridiculous games, but the ones where I get to make stories with friends are my favorite. And I'm Rabid Ronnie on Twitter. I don't do anything particularly impressive on there, but I talk about Pokemon a whole lot.
And Janaya, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. Hello, my name is Janaya. My pronouns are she, her, and I am at Janaya on Twitter and everywhere, and I play good games with nice people. So I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. So tonight we are continuing the saga of Half Sick of Shadows. We are starting. Tonight we're playing "The King is Dead" by Vince and Meg Baker. And if this is your first time coming in, I'll do a. Actually, Grant, why don't you do a quick recap so I can continue stuffing tortellini in my face about kind of what's happened the past episodes. Yeah.
I can do that. So this is officially our third episode, and it's our fourth broadcast for Half Sick of Shadows. The idea here is we do an anthology style of role-playing games where there is one campaign world and one central storyline that is played over a series of games. So we began with For the Queen, where we kind of created the myth of our world and told the tale of a group of individuals in a retinue that eventually saw the defense of a queen who sat on the throne. In that episode, we learned that queen herself was the illegitimate child of the High Royal Advisor. We also learned that the king had a son, or not the king, the High Advisor also had a son who was a very famous knight and hero in the land. And these secrets were kept very close by the royal spy master, Martine. We then moved on into a house creation session where we prepped. Hi, Norm. Snow Dog's in chat. Good to see you. We then did a little world building session where we used the house creation rules from a Song of Ice and Fire role playing game to create our 4 royal houses: House Lane, Holloway, Mercier, and Vespucci. It's an interesting system where we determine the size and scale of the houses, we determined how ancient the houses are or whether they were new, and what historical events had occurred in each royal line. All as a framework for tonight's game where we're going to play For the Queen. Our last session featured a game of Starcross between the famous knight and the spy master, as they both came to the acknowledgement and resolution of what was to become of the secrets of the kingdom, how would they be kept safe. Tonight's session takes place 100 years in the future after that. The secrets are out, and doubt is cast upon who will be sitting on the throne by the end of this period of brief and intense political turmoil. And the idea is that tonight's game will set up the framework for another role-playing game, Unrestful Hearts in the Garden of Glory, where we will continue the story as the characters that exist in the kingdom after a king or queen is crowned. So that's the general framework so far. A little bit about tonight's game. It's a storytelling game by Vince and Meg Baker. We've played similar games on this channel and other channels if you've followed me online. Mobile Frame Zero Firebrands, In Dreaming Avalon. They all follow the same framework, but they have different goals. And the goal of this game is to vie for the throne and sit on the throne. And the overarching principles of the game are fight with your friends, ally with your rivals, and fall in love with your enemies. The idea is that we will portray princes or princesses or other nobles who are going to attempt to sit on a throne during this sort of succession process. A little bit about our houses. We have the ancient house, House Vespucci, which is essentially the royal line, but they are in a state of decline. We have House Mercier, which is the new house. If you recall Sir Branyan from our game of Starcross, that is Branyan's house that was founded in Branyan's honor. We also have House Lane, which are sort of the monster hunting warriors of the north. They have not gotten a lot of respect from their kingdom over the years, and they have defended their borders. They've had very little resources, and they've spent most of their existence in poverty. However, a recent turn of events has shown that they might actually be able to lay claim to the royal throne as it sits. Lastly, we have House Holloway. They live high up in the tallest mountain tops, where the peaks of the mountains scrape the sky. At the highest peak, they have built a tower and attempting to reach the heavens, and they are known for a house that has been stricken with madness time and time again. Either they delved too deep for the riches that they found in the world. However, their army is vast and impressive, and they have often been used as a sellsword mercenary force by other houses. And they are also seeking to lay claim to the throne. Is that pretty good, Lauren? Do you need me to buy more time? Okay.
No, that's great. I'm just going to eat tortellini in between games. So the first thing that we do when we play The King is Dead is we're going to make some characters. So Janaya, do you know which house you would like to play?
I think I'd like to play the Vespucci's.
Excellent. And we did not put name ideas, but we've been giving Vespucci is very Italian, so you can put in Zoom chat your character name and pronouns. And that's all she needs to do, yeah? Yeah, character name and pronouns. And then we'll do attractive qualities after. Do you think we all have houses?
Well, what I would do is we can wait until we each have a house, and then we will go.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
That's some elementary school trivia right there. Amerigo Vespucci is a cartographer.
Yeah. And so, Ronnie, which house would you like to play?
House Lane. I was sitting here like, don't pick House Lane. Don't pick House Lane. I want to kill monsters.
I was considering it. I was going to do it.
I wanted to be House Lane too, but then I didn't finish my work.
Do you want to be Holloway and have me be Mercier?
No.
Okay.
I don't like House Holloway. My least favorite house. All right. And so Grant is playing House Holloway. And I am playing House Mercier. So we have Lucretia Vespucci. She, her pronouns, Janaya?
Yes. Sorry, I got it on the Zoom label, but not in the Zoom chat.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, there it is. I see it. We have Bruce Holloway. He, him pronouns. Hello, roll 20. And what, Ronnie, do you have a name for?
Yeah, I just entered it in. Gerard Lane.
Gerard Lane. Where is that? Oh, did you just?
It's right under Janaya.
Oh, it's not sure. Oh, there it is. Okay. My brain is doing a thing. So we got Bruce Holloway. And now we go around the table and pick attractive qualities.
We still don't know your character's name.
Oh, did I not say that? Blanche Mercier.
So And the way this works is you choose one for yourself, and then the next 2 players behind you will assign you 2 others. So your attractive qualities are actually determined by the table at large, and it's okay if there's duplicates.
Yes. So I put in the Zoom chat, if you scroll up a little bit, the list of attractive qualities. These aren't the only attractive qualities that exist, but they are some ideas to help. So we'll start with, I guess, the order that we have on this Roll20. So we'll start with Bruce. Bruce, what is your first attractive quality?
Bruce's first attractive quality is widely traveled.
Widely traveled. All right. Your second attractive quality is that you said you wanted to be a sad boy on Twitter, so you are brooding.
I wouldn't hold my tweets against me, but sure. No,
I mean,
that works.
Wouldn't you?
I think it's the only way you can be redeemable in House Holloway, and I know that might sound very judgmental, but I know their history.
Yeah.
We carved that from the mythos.
We sure did. And Janaya, what is Bruce Holloway's last attractive quality?
I think he is very musical.
Mm. Musical. All right. Blanche Mercier is she is patient. Janaya, what is her second quality?
Sorry, I just keep forgetting the list. Oh, I think she's practical.
Patient and practical. And Ronnie, what is the last one?
I think that Blanche is athletic.
Athletic. It's very practical of her. And Janaya, tell me about what makes Lucretia attractive.
She's very devout.
Devout. All right. What else makes her attractive, Ronnie?
She is steadfast.
Steadfast. And Grant.
She is educated.
Oh, perfect. That was already there on my list. And Gerard Lane.
Gerard is bold.
Gerard is bold. Grant, what else is he?
Swole.
Okay.
Handsome.
Gerard is athletic.
Okay. I mean, we can. I'm okay.
You can make
with
up
it.
your own, but yeah, I think.
No, you said it. You said it. He's swole. That's going on the Roll20 now. It's official. And I think he is also I think he's also beautiful. He's just very pretty.
I am now envisioning Scott from Monster Prom.
Yes. Yeah. So those are our. Now we start. The first game we play is Intrigue and Muster. Yes. Have I missed something?
So what we do is we deal 3 cards out to everyone. I'll just handle that. So everyone's going to get 3 cards, and then we will reveal the highest card from our hand. So this is going to take place in Roll20. Don't stress if it's a little sticky. Just take your time. So if you see the There should be a card above your name, wherever your name is in Roll20. It should have the back of the card with a 3 on it. And just go ahead and pick the highest card and drop it in your little play area and flip it over. For example, I have the King of Clubs. And you're going to take this card back and put it back into your hand when you're done. We're just determining who has the highest card, and that individual will choose the intrigue and muster.
Are aces high or low?
Aces are high.
All right. I don't want a token. I just want to flip it. Flip card.
So then we all take our cards back into our hands, and what we do in this situation is
So you right click it and there'll be a take card option.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
and then you get to do an intrigue and muster, which is going to be a little different in this game from The King is Dead, how it's written, because we're using custom houses and things of that nature. So do we have the document to read from?
Yeah.
There we go.
So if you scroll down on that document where I gave you all the stuff, there'll be intrigue and muster. So what you do is you pick a house that you want to. I don't think it's a house other than your own. Yes.
It has to be a
Yes.
house other than your own. It says don't take too long. We don't deliberate and talk about it. You just pick one of the things that seems exciting on there, and then that happens.
All right. And do I go first then?
Mm-hmm.
You are going to be the only person to do one.
Oh, only person to do one. All right. The High Princess of Vespucci has purchased vast quantities of mines in the high mountains of House Holloway. Vespucci and Holloway exchange hands and draw one card each.
Okay, so here's how this works. I'm going to put my cards down in front of you. You can put your cards down in front of me, and then we both draw a card.
Wait,
And I'll go ahead and hold on before I hand this to you.
that's with me, right? Because I'm Vespucci.
Yes.
Yeah, so let me actually move these over. And then I'll put those there. And so I've dealt you a card as well, and then we'll just take these cards. So essentially, at the end of the game, here's where it's important. At the end of the game, cards determine certain values, such as the strength of your army, your influence to take the throne, etc. There's a lot of games, and during the different games, card values switch and move around. Sometimes hearts are stronger than clubs, etc., etc. But what this mechanic does is it kind of moves the cards around the table during all these political intrigues. So when you get to the end, it's kind of a surprise as to who will sit on the throne. However, you'll have a general sense and general idea. So essentially, we swapped hands and drew cards. So we each have one card more than the other players in the game. If you ever have more than 5, you discard down to 5. And if you ever have, I believe, less than 2, you draw up to 3. Or if you have less than 2, you draw up to 2. We'll double check in the rules when it comes up. So next...
You were right. I have those rules open right now, so.
Okay. And then we'll just follow the line and we'll choose games to play. So there was... so then the Intrigue and Muster, the Princess of Vespucci has just purchased lots of mines, correct? I always like to kick off these games, these storytelling games, with a dance. So what I think has happened is the Princess of Vespucci, and I'll ask you, Janaya, is this either a sibling of yours, a cousin of yours, is it you yourself? Who at Vespucci actually purchased these mines?
I think that it might be me. I think that it was me, and it was sort of a starting play of coming into active discussion about what's going to happen next between our houses.
And what has happened next, and we know within, or at least Lauren and I know within, in the lands of Vespucci, there is a massive, beautiful, and glorious palace. The only building that rivals it in the entire land is the palace of House Mercier as well. You have used these riches, or the House Vespucci has used these riches to add to the beauty and glory of this palace. And there is going to be a dance. So a dance is going to be the next game, and everyone's invited. Everyone's invited to show off the great wealth and prominence of Vespucci. The theme is paying tribute to the older eras, back when Vespucci was the most prominent house. In fact, they're paying tribute back to the times of King Julian. Julian being a character in one of our previous games who would have been the not real father of your line.
Last legitimate Vespucci king.
The last so this whole play is to play up the prominence, and you've invited many other princes and princesses and other individuals to come to this dance. Particularly House Holloway as well has been invited, since they've just sold most of their property. Bruce Holloway actually facilitated the selling of most of those mines. And so, if no one objects, I think we should play a dance. And if this is your first time playing The King is Dead, I'll explain how the game works. If you've played Intruding Avalon...
I need to attend to a tiny person.
I know that life.
Yeah.
Musical interlude. No. So if you have a copy of the rules open on page 12, it has the rules for playing a dance. We're going to describe how we look to each other and what our mood is when we arrive. This gives us a good opportunity to kind of play up our characters and how they change over time, as well as, we're playing these daring and dashing individuals in this game of courtly intrigue.
There we go.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
And the general way this game works is we're going to have the opportunity to either read questions directly as they're written and fill in the gaps with our imagination, improv and ad-lib, but always point towards what Vince and Meg call the thrust of the scene. In other words, this is a festive occasion. As long as we're steering towards the idea that it is a social gathering. And this game often leads to other games. So is there anyone who is not attending the dance? I assume we were all invited. So are we all going to be there?
Yeah.
So what you do now is you put the highest card in your hand in front of your play space and flip it. And then we're going to put these into a little pile, and we're going to shuffle them all up while the dance goes on. So I'm just going to put them into this play area to the side. And then at the end of the dance, we'll just rehand them back out.
So flip it back face down and then put it
face down.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Over here?
Yeah.
And then
shuffle pile.
Yeah, and then we all also get to draw a card. So I'm going to go ahead and deal those out to everyone so everyone gets another card. And with that, the dance begins. So we're going to describe how we look to each other. So Bruce Holloway enters the Great Palace. He was seen riding alone to the palatial grounds. He sits atop a gray horse, and his dress is current. he does not have the means to afford a ceremonial outfit from ancient times, and he would rather not reflect the ancient times for House Holloway, knowing the great suffering that their house has gone through. Um, it almost looks as though a secret sits upon his brow as he arrives at court. For the dance alone, he has no servants who travel with him, and his sword is not at the ready. It stays on the horse as he makes way for the dance. He also tips the footman that escort him in, so he just kind of grooms him in. He hands him a little silver and a wink, and makes way for the dance. So that is Bruce's entrance.
Blanche, Blanche's entrance into the country of Cascada is kind of like a surprise. Like, a lot of people weren't expecting it. But she shows up and she greets the former royals, the family that has been deposed, quite warmly. She is also not dressing in theme. She's wearing but she's wearing an older dress, like something that she's had and hasn't had a chance to wear for a while. Like, it's a bit of an older fashion, but it's by no means a costume.
Gerard is carrying himself confidently as he sort of swaggers in. He is wearing furs and leathers and an ornate necklace bearing the trophies of his kills. He definitely keeps his sword on, but also produces coin from a small pouch at his waist for the footmen and attendants, and gives a gesture of respect and deference as he makes his way in and surveys the area, sort of as though he's trying to get the lay of the land before he does anything fun.
Lucretia is dressed in a beautiful ornate dress that nods to the naval past of her family, but it's also embroidered in with little bits of mapping subtly into the brocade to represent her strength as a strategist, and not just as a princess. And this is in my house, right? Okay, so she, when everybody comes in, she is not on the dais with the rest of her family, but instead is walking through the room and greeting people individually, with two people walking behind her, clearly sort of being a secondary memory of any sort of conversations that she has and people that she meets.
All right, and so now what we do is we're going to go around and everyone's going to have the opportunity to ask 2 questions of each other. You're allowed to freeform and improvise roleplay during these scenes, and the key point is that the dance will end once everyone has had the opportunity to ask 2 questions. Now, there might be a story reason why you want to exit the dance or something like that. We'll come to those when we do, but it's a good opportunity to learn a little bit about each other's characters. So for this dance, we're actually playing, the music is playing like an old Holloway folk song, music from the mountain. And the mountains aren't known particularly for their music. But at this point, Bruce has broken form and kind of stepped out of shadow to lead the dance. This is the happiest he has appeared during this entire ordeal. He was dreadful during dinner, looked to be a ghost of a man. At this point, though, his cheeks are flush. He's come alive. He's even he's taken to singing the tune. And at this point, Gerard, something about Bruce catches your eye and your look lingers. What is it? You muted.
Sorry. It is how he demonstrates command of his body and of the dance floor. He is a charismatic presence there that speaks to me as a man of the battlefield, as a man who prides himself on physical form. Bruce is clearly keenly aware of himself in a way that is impressive.
Okay. And now we just continue to go in the circle, so we'll just follow the order that our names are in and roll 20, so it'll go Lauren, Janiyah, then Ronnie, then back to me.
Right. Blanche is not dancing. She's taking some time. Like she doesn't. This is the first dance of the night, or not the first dance, probably the second dance of the night. But she's still just trying to let her stomach settle before going right into the dance. And so she's kind of standing at the sidelines, and I think Lucretia, I have the same question. Something about me catches your eye and your look lingers. What is it?
I think it's she becomes aware that you're not just resting, you're actually very carefully analyzing the room. And she just becomes aware, like she was not surprised that you were there like everybody else was, but she is surprised to see that you are so carefully taking note of who is there, of who is interacting with whom. But continuing to portray yourself as if you were just taking a pause.
Okay. It's your turn, Janiyah.
Okay. So Lucretia is telling a story to a group of people. And she's laughing. It's obviously a very funny story. But Bruce, there's something about the story that you feel isn't meant to be funny, but you feel is targeted to draw your attention. What is it?
Okay. The characters in the story are an analogy and a metaphor for the false nobility of House Mercier, and essentially how you can trick yourself into believing you are noble, you can trick yourself into believing you are rich and you are wealthy, but the gods themselves determine these things, and Mercier is a house with no history, a house with no story, and a house with no actual wealth. They simply hit the lottery and all the gold will soon slip out of their fingers. And Bruce picks up on this detail. And he's like, well, yeah, our family has a history too, but what's history? He keeps that to himself, though. But he does give a knowing look towards Lucretia, like, I see this.
I think Gerard has been mingling at this point, has danced in a few of the dances, and he turns and approaches Blanche and gives a sweeping bow and extends his hand and says, "It is not often that we have the presence of an esteemed lady from House Mercier. May I have this dance? Do you take my hand?"
I do. I smile and I say something like, "Oh, you flatter me." And yeah, and we dance.
All right. He's an excellent dancer.
Nice. All right, Grant, it is
Oh gosh, already.
your turn. I know this has been a short dance.
No, it's good. So Bruce has taken a moment. He's requested, upon watching Gerard and Blanche dance, he requested that the musicians play a forbidden tune, a melody known as Branyan's song. Yes, Sir Branyan, the esteemed former knight captain of House Vespucci, who founded House Mercier. And he tips and kind of paid the musicians to do it, because the musicians were like, "You're going to get us hanged." And then, like, one of them's kind of a hipster, and he's like, "But what a way to die, man." And, like, yeah, and they, yeah, so they got into it. And at this point, Blanche, your mouth is close to my ear. What do you say?
I think she says, "What's your game here?" Referring to the song.
He is.
I think their eyes meet.
Yeah. And he speaks very frankly to you. He goes,
starts.
I don't think you know anything about someone till you've put them in the most uncomfortable position possible. And I can't think of any position more uncomfortable, save for perhaps Branyan himself, and his beloved, than to have the song of your house founder played by the esteemed musicians of House Vespucci, who there is none superior to. I think the match goes very well. Really, I just want to see how everyone responds. I'm horrible at social situations. It's why I'm never invited to them. In fact, I think I'm merely brought here as a consolation prize for selling away our house's fortunes in treasures. But might as well make the most of it, I say with a wink. Return to the dance.
Blanche takes this all in stride and actually like leads. She's in the Merciers who are from a different land, from the previous Queen Mother's land. So, and she, yeah, I think she starts dancing by herself, a traditional dance of her country that fits to this tune. And while she is while she's dancing like this, Uh, gosh, too many questions. Gerard, you have the opportunity to draw me close and hold me for a moment. Do you take it?
Absolutely. He joins in as much as he is able, and he draws you in, and he whispers as he does so. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
It's a graceful recovery.
I didn't know anybody else knew this dance.
When you are on the borders of civilization, what you know is what is shared along the open road. It is beautiful dance.
All right. Janaya, it is your turn.
That's lovely. What am I doing? Am I saying my next step in the dance, then choosing one of the questions
Yes.
on the question sheet?
Yes.
I think that having seen the conversation between Blanche and Bruce, and then Blanche move away from Bruce, Lucretia goes and asks Bruce to dance with her. Do you agree?
It would be my honor.
She sort of walks with you onto the dance floor, moving too quickly to be led. And on the dance floor, she dances with you. Astonishing the way that the set list for tonight has changed. I do love a surprise.
They have a gift for improvisation and surprises.
That is true.
It's also the quickest way to lure snakes out of the grass, he says with kind of a glance towards Blanche and Gerard.
Well, it's certainly at least a way to ruffle the grass. And at this point, your comment about snakes in the grass takes me a little out of place, and I lose my place in the dance.
Oh no.
Do you
I'm
let
not
me
gonna
stumble?
Not
or
at
do you
all.
draw me back into place?
Draw you back into place. And it's one of those things, I make sure it looks as though you're leading this. Because it's one of those things where I think Bruce kind of sees House Vespucci, you in particular, as a natural leader. And he's like, even if she stumbles, I have to make it look as though it's my fault. Which it is, inevitably. But yes, so we end up doing a rather dynamic and modern dance move that I think catches the eyes of everyone, and they all kind of gasp and applaud.
She smiles graciously to the people who have applauded for the two of you and finishes the dance. And when she walks away, she says very quietly, "Thank you."
Bruce nods and he kind of, it's almost as if he's going to exit with you, but then turns and shouts to everyone in the audience, "Long live the Queen!" and gets them all, these Vespuccis, to like cheer and like get into it. He's like, "Yeah, I see where House Vespucci's loyalties lie." Huh. All right.
Interesting. Ronnie, you're muted.
This is why I never mute myself. Yeah, I'm recovering from that. Okay. So Gerard finishes the dance that he and Blanche were doing together, And at this ruckus, I think at this, there is a moment of distraction. And the dance's figures bring you, Blanche, to dance with someone else. Who is it? And when the dance brings you back to me again, are you pleased or disappointed?
I think it brings me to Lucretia, and I think there's like a very kind of like, I don't know how, like there's a very intense, like, it's, we don't speak while we're dancing, Lucretia, and there's just like a very intense moment of eye contact, because all of a sudden we have been quite obviously pitted against each other by Bruce. How does Lucretia, like, what's her manner during this section?
I think that there's this moment of intense look, and then her eyes warm and her whole face just smiles, this very maternal, warm smile to you.
Yeah, and I think when that happens, she kind of relaxes and smiles back, looks towards Bruce and kind of looks back and rolls to you and rolls her eyes. And when that moment is kind of over, she goes back to Gerard, and she's much happier than she was before.
All right.
I think that was 2 questions for everybody.
That's
the whole
game.
dance.
And
Wonderful.
so that's my turn, and then the turn passes to Lauren to choose the next game, and you can choose from any of them. If you don't know what game to play, we can do an intrigue and muster, but it's up to you to sort of follow that narrative, what you want to see next.
I would like to steal time with Bruce.
All right. Where would you like to steal time with him at? Would it be in the lands of Mercier or the lands of Holloway? Or are we at Castle Vespucci?
I think we're still at Castle Vespucci. This is like the morning after the dance. And I've come to whatever apartments that you're staying at, called on.
I'm going to let you in on a secret.
What?
If you waited till the next morning, you would not find Bruce there. He was going to escape in the middle of the night on his horse.
Oh, well, in that
you
case,
would find him then.
I think that's exactly where I find you trying to escape.
Yep.
I think I'm like out on a balcony, and I see
you see me getting ready to climb down.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah, no, I see you on your horse trying to leave, and I kind of call out to you. It's not a super high balcony. And I say, leaving so soon?
I have a pressing matter to attend to.
Really?
No, falsely. I kind of say with a jest. I go, shall I come up or shall we converse in loud voices across a great distance in the middle of the night?
I'll wait for you to come up if you decide not to leave.
All right. I kind of look at my horse, whose name is Sugar Cube, after his favorite food. I kind of give him a knowing, go that way, and Sugar Cube walks off his way. And then I imagine it's not too high. It's probably like a second story room. The guests stay on the second story. So I actually just sort of scale the wall, kind of pseudo athletically. It's a little more work than I'd like, and kind of get onto the balcony. I'm just like, You can massage the shoulder and say, "May I come in? It is quite cold out here."
I was going to wait for you to take the stairs, but of course. And she like opens the door.
The gates are locked at this hour. They don't open them. Fear of burglars.
Yeah, so she calls him into her room, um, or the room that she's staying in.
All right. Yeah, he
So-
immediately.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. He like unceremoniously. This is like totally inappropriate too. But the way Bruce works is he kind of sits on the end of your bed and he's kind of like bouncing, almost like a child would. And he's just kind of like, "Hey, this is kind of neat." He's not used to nice beds.
And what was this errand that you had to leave the party so quickly?
Well, in the north, we are a land on the brink of social and societal collapse. Every day that I am gone from my people, they come closer and closer to meeting a dreadful end. I came down here with a mission. I failed.
What was that mission? And as she's talking, I think she had been kind of half, like, undoing her hair and stuff, and so she's wearing one of these dresses that has lots of layers, and I think she starts to loosen the top layer, not sexually, just in kind of a like, this is what I was already doing and I'm going to keep doing it, and if you are uncomfortable with it, you can look away. Kind of thing. May I?
You may, and Bruce isn't uncomfortable at all. He's used to living on the road, and his manners are poor to begin with. Not that your manners are poor, but his most definitely are. He explains, he says, "Vespucci is very wealthy. Your house is very wealthy. Your lover, Gerard, and myself are quite poor. Gerard makes a living fighting against the darkness at all hours of the day and all hours of the night. They are a leader of people. And they have no compensation for it."
Is Gerard my lover? Interesting.
100%.
Nobody told me.
Well, that's because he's shy. He
I heard
says
your-
more with a touch and a glance than words. He's not an eloquent sort of chap, but skilled, trustworthy, handsome, strong. The model of a soldier and a knight. Have you ever seen a face more beautiful than the face of Gerard Lane?
Are you jealous?
No, I'm enamored. I mean, just look at him.
I thought fortunes changed for your house with the sales.
No. Okay, I'm going to explain to you how it works. Those were essentially leasebacks. Like Vespucci, they've taken us for everything that we have. We got a little bit of capital. That'll be enough to get food and supplies, maybe to pay for 6 months a year. And this is not by Lucretia's design, bless her heart. It's very easy to take advantage of my family for a variety of reasons. And there are advisors and counselors who have descended from a great noble line here in House Vespucci that have knowledge of our weaknesses.
She sits down beside you, may I?
You may.
And what are those weaknesses?
I look to my travel pack that I imagine I've set down, like on a chair. There is a book fastened to it. It is in ebon-covered tome. There is the etching of a face of what looks to be a genderless creature. Its eyes are looking in opposite directions. And you hear what almost sounds like a whisper go through your ears as you see that book. And I say, we have an unproud past. And there are many in my family who carry the old ways in both their hearts and their heads. I say this, looking at you. I'm not ashamed. I'm very forthright with this. And it has been difficult to purify our lineage, but we have sought to do so. Depart from the old ways. Find new ways. Your house knows something of that.
Perhaps it does. I don't see how you failed in your quest tonight.
Well, I was supposed to bring back promises to the tower that touches the top of the world. The Tower of House Holloway. I was supposed to bring back perhaps a promise and an alliance with the great houses, but I did not. You see, these sort of things take time, and there needs to be a natural pairing, and I won't beat around the bush any longer. I don't have it in me to propose to Lucretia. I hardly know her. It'd be the same as if I was to propose to you or Gerard. I don't know any of you. My house sent me here to marry, and it's too soon. I don't know anyone. I've been on the road for the past 7 years.
Then perhaps you should stay and get to know us. If these things take time, then take the time. You seem to get along very well with Lucretia.
Well, she is everything that a human being would aspire to be. There is none who knows the prayers as devoutly as Lucretia. There is none who is as well studied as Lucretia. There is none who commands the dance floor as Lucretia. And she is perhaps the wisest Vespucci to have ever lived. Since deep in the old days, the old times as well. I get along pretty well with just about everybody, whether they roll their eyes at me or not. I happen to like Brandon's song.
Then why the test?
Beg your pardon?
You said you were testing me. I asked what you were playing at.
Well,
Why make me uncomfortable on purpose?
because I think in those situations where everyone in the room is uncomfortable, myself included, I could have been shot on sight. Well, then we all begin to disarm ourselves. We learn to be uncomfortable. Should we be ashamed of Brandon's song? Should we forbid the song of your people, the greatest hero that House Vespucci has ever seen? He's descended through the same lineage as Queen Esmeralda. Why should we outlaw the heroes of the past? And if you don't have the courage in you to look your history in the face, the same as I am required to look my history in the face, then I'm not sure this is a kingdom I want to be a part of.
What can I do to convince you to stay? I touch your hand, may I?
You may. I look in your eyes and I say, you have only to ask me to stay, and I will.
She smiles. It's much more interesting with you around. I'd hate to see you leave.
Okay. Yeah. So, Bruce takes your hand and kisses it, may he?
Yes.
Yeah, he kisses your hand, grabs his pack, and with a wink and a smile departs back to his rooms, hoping Sugar Cube got to their own stable and not to the wrong one. And I think that's the scene.
Yeah, that's exactly how I wanted that to go. I think we've been streaming for an hour, so we could maybe take a 5-minute break.
Yeah.
If that's all right with everybody.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So we'll be back in 5 minutes with some more The King is Dead, and some more intrigue, I guess.
And we're back.
Hello, welcome back to Half-Sake of Shadows, episode 3, The Queen is Dead. We are playing a custom version of The King is Dead, made to fit our beautiful world of Cascada that we have been making over the course of this series. We are here with Janaya and Ronnie, who have come here to play Lucretia Vespucci and Gerard Lane. It is Janaya's turn to pick a mini game. So there's a list on the Roll20 of all of the games that you can play. If you aren't familiar with one of them, or if one sounds interesting, we can kind of give you a brief description of it, or if there's like something you want to achieve, you can tell us and we'll figure out what the best game is to play. You're muted.
I have no idea what it is that I want to achieve.
All right. Well, so there's an animated disagreement, which is exactly what it sounds like.
I guess my question kind of more for the group is whether or not we want to stay within this exact time period based around this party, or whether we want to spread it out across a bigger time.
Either's fine with me.
Yeah.
I actually like to see some passage of time, and maybe so here's some ways to pick a good game. So I think I'd like to see a little bit of time pass, and I'd like to see your character deepen their relationship with one of the other characters. And at this point, someone different than Bruce, only because Bruce has been in a lot of scenes. He was in the Intrigue and Muster, he led the dance, and then he had Stealing Time Together. So I think he needs to be out of a scene for a second. So choose either Lucretia, Blanche, or Gerard. Pick a game either one-on-one or with the two of them that will give your character an opportunity to create a messy entanglement with them.
I think that I would like to choose the reunion with Gerard.
Okay.
And I think that while if it's okay with you, that I, while Lucretia was studying military tactics, we crossed paths like much earlier, like, early teens, still sort of wet behind the ears kind of time. Um, and that's as far as I'll go with that, so we can expose it during the reunion. But
Absolutely.
I don't know if you have designs on where that would be. I think that if we're going to move time forward, because you're so based in this fighting monsters and protecting the realm kind of thing, that maybe a meeting in a military camp with Lucretia coming to sort of make assessments for her family on where their military support should be placed.
Yeah, perhaps you're bringing a supply chain. My house is known not to possess many resources of their own.
Right. Okay.
All right, sounds good. So how do you look to me as you arrive at the camp?
Highly impractical. I think that she comes in and she is dressed in armor, and she does have a sword on her hip, a horseman's sword, but it just doesn't look like it's fitted well to her hands. It looks more like a ceremonial blade than anything else, and the cloak of her family that she's wearing on top of the armor sort of like drapes down back across the horse in this way that you think, well, that would be the easiest way to unseat someone from a horse. But at the same time, she's very much got this just glow about her of piousness and determination. And in this kind of worn down, battle weary thing, it's an impractical but welcome sort of change as she rides into camp. And she rides towards the front. She doesn't ride towards the middle, which is unusual for a more, political emissary.
Yeah.
And so the carts are behind her, not in front of her.
All right.
And as I ride into camp, how do you look to me?
Gerard is in his element. Gerard is in the midst of what could be a very grim place, a very low morale sort of place. Gerard's face is aglow, both with sweat from training and just with joy. He's finishing up a conversation with one of the other soldiers, claps him on the shoulder, and congratulates him on a job well done, and turns with an easy smile and calls out, the radiant Lucretia Vespucci, gracing us with her presence and refreshing our needs this day. Well met.
You are too kind. She sort of climbs down from her horse and just like hands the reins behind her, doesn't even look back, trusts that someone will grab them. Mm-hmm. And as she kind of comes down from the horse, it was obviously meant to be this very delicate alighting on the ground, but she's not really used to the more muddy, soaked ground, and she stumbles just a little bit, but rights herself. You just see this momentary look of panic and disdain on her face, and then it passes into nothing. It's been a long journey, Gerard.
Sure it has. The road here is long and winding.
Might I trouble you for some refreshment?
Of course, to my tent. Come this way. And he gestures to a squire who scrambles off to go find something suitable for a visitor of this caliber. And soon you are sitting in a relatively well-furnished tent. You can see there's a table with maps and a dagger that's driven in somewhere, as well as several scribbled notes here and there, but the place where you two are sitting is comfortable. Some of those furs have been used to line the stools and such to keep them warm during the cold and wet days at camp. And eventually that squire returns, and there's some serviceable tea and some pretty. It's definitely not the fancy food of the party from weeks before, but it's tasty and it's filling.
She sort of nibbles lightly and takes a bit longer of a drink than you would expect. And she looks a little nervous. I used to worship you and dog your heels when we were children, and I'm concerned that you'll still see me that way. Do you greet me as an equal now, or is your flattery minced with sarcasm?
I don't think Gerard has ever seen anyone as beneath him in his life. There is equality and even deference in his voice. There is perhaps a slight. He makes a comment a bit into this that, you know, it's a far cry from throwing stones at pigeons when we were young. And then that's as much as he ever says about it. And so I remember you fondly, as he starts speaking of the road to battle and some of the skirmishes they've had with the monsters. You can see Gerard's eyes are sort of distant, and he's looking back to a simpler time, and so much has come between us since simple days when we were training and I was teaching you some of the things that my people had taught me. And so as much as he greets you as an equal, there's a coolness that is born out from knowing that his life has been harder in some ways. And so, you know, he says, it of course is not what comes to the palace, I presume, the stories of death and bloodshed, just the victories, of course, are worth celebrating, but it has been a struggle these many months. So do you try to reach out to me, or do you respond in kind?
I think that I noticed that you are glancing at the rest of my companions who followed me to carry things and everything else, and this sort of trapping of court life, and it's causing you to remain very cold. And I look back and say, would you both be so kind as to make sure that the horse is well taken care of? I'm sure that I'm fine right here. I can't imagine that Gerard would not keep me safe. And they exit the room. And as they do, I adjust my posture and sort of sit down a little less regally. Gerard, I'm here on business, of course. But, you know, every time that somebody goes out into the field to see what's going on, all that we do is get stories of, you know, the same things that would come back in a report. There are decisions that are going to have to be made soon. And it's important that I have the information to make them. Would you sit with me as a friend? Like we used to sit, and just tell me how things are?
This I believe I can do. Shall we continue then with a conversation over food?
Let's.
All right.
So then you just move into that game and keep playing until the meal ends. Note about this game too. It essentially ends when you say it does. There's no like everyone asks 2 questions. So it we once got caught in that loop for a very long time until we realized, oh, we can just end it. We're like, oh, there's no. Yeah.
Well, that was good food. Bye.
There is a step that you'll have to do. You'll have to show each other the highest card in your hands, and then put it in a pool together, and then kind of like the dance, there'll be a random card shuffle or dealt back to you. So in roll 20, if you'll show each other your high cards, I will slide them into the spare square and shuffle them up for you.
I got this right here.
So we got an Ace of Hearts and a Jack of Hearts.
All right. And
Guys,
then do
leave
we
that.
each draw a card?
Does it say you do in the rules?
I think it did.
Take the highest card from your hand and show it, I believe is what it says.
Everyone
Or-
present draws a card
Okay,
during
there you go.
setup.
Yep, so draw one.
All right.
It's okay if you...
There we go. Alrighty.
And now you play the game as described.
All right. I think we've sort of discovered how we look to each other already.
What page are we on?
This is
10
page
to
10.
11.
Which one?
10 and 11.
Okay.
So you go first.
Conversation. The food of the North is truly delicious, Gerard. It's always pleasant to eat something other than the fussily carved food of the South.
Yes. Well, what we lack in fussily carved things, as you so aptly put it, we make up for in well preserved and boldly flavored things that will last us on the road. It's not to everyone's taste, but I'm glad you find it to your liking.
I hope to convince you that you are likely to get a more benevolent ear from the House Vespucci than any other house. Can I?
To what would I owe such an honor?
There are many people who would like the support of this house. And there are many people who would like my support in particular. But there are not many people whom I trust, Gerard. And I think that I might be able to trust you. I know that the front up here is different than the stories that we are receiving. And I know that it matters, that it is protected. And I think that many other people who have not studied strategy the way that you and I have do not understand that as well.
Well, when people are safe, it behooves them not to ask why or how, or really to appreciate that they are. It becomes what they take for granted, which I do not say in malice. Certainly, it is not my desire that every household across the kingdom would worry after House Lane's well-being. It is simply the truth that many do not think upon these things because the opportunity simply has never presented itself. I think you can convince him that at least that he is in a good position. Well then, if you seek to have my trust, if you seek to find me trustworthy, and you wish to know the truth of these things, speak your mind. I am feeling expansive. What do you want to know about me?
Why do you believe that these monsters head specifically for the land of your house? What is it that keeps them coming just for you?
Well, after many years, and of course, what knowledge we have been able to gather, I think there are many reasons. I think one of them is simply geography. The fact of the matter is, the monsters live in the swamps and so do we. And therefore, when there is a clash over territory, it is between us. But I also, if you want my personal opinion, I think that there is something here. Something my forefathers have either never discovered or have kept well enough hidden that fighters like myself will never stumble upon it. Something that the monsters want. Something that sustains them. And we have it. And until we discover precisely what that is, and how to either utilize it to our advantage or give it over to them so that they leave us alone, we will be in this deadlock.
She sort of looks at the table with all the writings and the notes and the things on them.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that all battles are truly divine, Gerard. I believe that all battles have a good side and an evil side. And I believe that the history of houses is carried in our blood. The guilt of the past is carried forward, as are the good deeds of the past. I believe that there is something here that the monsters are coming for, but I can't tell if it's something that they need or something that needs them. I have accidentally spilled the secret that I believe in arcane visions more than I believe in strategy. I've covered it up by turning and pointing at statistics, at numbers on the table.
Mm-hmm.
But do you pick up on it anyway?
I think I pick up that there's something being covered up. I don't think he picks up precisely what, So I think he recognizes that there's a deep reverence for the arcane there, but not necessarily the specific. I don't think he dialed in on visions specifically. He says, you know, the church has been a great sustaining source for my people. Brings them comfort and hope in comfortless and hopeless places. But when we speak of good and evil, it is difficult for me, because in the heat of battle, good is the man with an outstretched arm beside you, and evil is the fangs bared in front of you. But when I go to the palace, good and evil look very different. There are no fangs, no claws, no expertly wielded weapons, only expertly wielded words. I am not a man who's good with words, Lucretia. I am much better at acting and reacting than speaking.
Well, Gerard, I'm not a woman who's good with monsters. It seems like we should spend more time on one another's side.
Perhaps we should. Perhaps there is much to be gained in these days from recognizing not only the things from the past that have carried with us, but also that which may be useful in the present and future. And at this point, he's hoping to find common ground with you about specifically House Mercier and how to... He is interested in what they have to offer to the crown, and how that, quite frankly, can enrich the resources of the entire kingdom, and less interested in their history than what they have to offer now. And he find that common ground with you.
No, I think she clutches the holy symbol that hangs around her neck, and she says, I think it's important to keep conversations open with all people at all times. But I think that one has to steel their heart against possible corrupting forces.
Wise words.
I think at this point she takes the holy symbol off of her neck and she hands it to you. And she says, I'm going to go oversee the placement of the supplies for you. Make sure that everything made it without being audited by our carriers.
Ah, yes. The bean counters, quite literally, from what I understand. It is always an honor, Lucretia. And he kisses the holy symbol and drapes it around his own neck.
All right. I am satisfied with the scene.
As am I.
All right. I have dealt random cards back to the both of you. You can take them into your hands. And
Cool.
if you have more than 5 cards, go ahead and discard a card up here in the discard pile. It's in the top north right corner of the screen. And with that, it is Ronnie's turn to set a scene.
All right. Well, I feel like Gerard and Bruce haven't gotten a chance to interact, really.
Okay, yeah. And the way I envision it, how much time would you like to have passed since the last scene? We are both, like, geographically, House Holloway and House Lane are in the northern parts of the country. Is there an event that would send you to House Holloway, or an event that would send House Holloway to House Lane? If you needed reinforcements, House Holloway would go down and assist. If perhaps your people were overrun by monsters, because the way we described it in the fiction using the house creation rules is it's a vast quantity of land with not a lot of soldiers in between and interspersed. It may be that it might be a dangerous season where we've pulled members of House Lane into the mountains to, perhaps it's just bad weather, and so they're invited guests, and that would bring you to our home, or any other reason. I don't think we'd go to war against each other. We could potentially have a disagreement. We could potentially be in a trial by contest. I'm not sure if any of those... I don't know if we've set the stage for those scenes yet.
No, so the way I envision it, I think that we have fallen back. I think perhaps we lost a village.
Okay.
And I have sought refuge for my men with you.
Okay. And is there any game in particular that you'd like?
I don't know specifically.
You can always do a non-romantic stealing time together. We can do a reunion if you'd like. And we can allow any freeform roleplay to pick it.
Yeah, I think the only other one, and I have to look at it to see if it'll work. Hang on. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Yeah, let's do stealing time together.
Okay, well, that works. Okay, so in stealing time together, I want to say that's page 22. I might be wrong though.
24.
24. There we go. So, we determined that you and your people were falling back. You came up into the high mountains, the top of the world, so to speak, of House Holloway. And I imagine that we have a place that's prepared for House Lane. It's almost like a winter home, because when the monsters come out this time of year, yeah, Snow Dog's in chat. I like the chase game too. That would be a good one to modify it and have the monsters chasing House Lane. But what we'll determine here is essentially there is what we call the Lane Mount, which is a mountain peak set apart for the members of House Lane, and I'm there to receive you as a friend. The way Bruce Holloway looks, we both draw a card at this point. That's going to put me over 5. So,
Yeah, I was going to say, did we draw cards for our stealing time together?
probably not. So,
Okay.
I'll deal one to you now.
Yeah.
And you'll have that. And then I will discard 2 cards. So,
How do you discard?
just drag it out of your hand and just drop it up here in the top right.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. I don't have a true discard pile. All right.
Cards in Roll20 are so weird.
Yeah, it's. I'm not going to give my spiel about how they need to do more work on it. But, But all right, and then let me double check the rules. So we both have our cards. Bruce looks well. In fact, he looks even better than he did at the dance. There is a light snow falling. He is wearing full military regalia at this time. And the honor guard of House Holloway is there to receive House Lane with open arms. And Bruce has a somewhat cheery demeanor. You know that he's hiding some sort of pain. You know Bruce well enough. You've known him his whole life. How do you look?
I look haggard. It was a flight to get here. It was we took more of a beating than I was anticipating. I lost 3 of my best men, and I think that I have been the primary one who has been driving the remainder of our men onward. I've slept less. I've eaten less. I've made sure everybody else had rations before I did. And so I am grateful and I receive your welcome with gratitude, but you can see the bags under my eyes and you can tell like it's been a rough one.
Okay. So, I invite you into a small. It's a small manor, but it's a dignified manor, which is the Starlight Manor. The ceiling is made of glass, but it's still well heated on the inside. So despite the glass ceiling, it's still warm inside, where you can see the constellations move, and as they pass overhead, they're shining through stained glass. As you look at the glass, if you were to look at it, there are depictions of strange creatures. They don't look like the monsters that you've fought in the north, but they look like they might be distant cousins to them, that seem to be telling the creation myth of the world itself and the mountains themselves. There's a variety of books on shelves, and you are currently alone with Bruce here in Starlight Manor, which is your house while you'll be here. There's only a single bedroom, but it's essentially the place reserved for you, being a prince of House Lane. You look like shit, says Bruce, just like that. Matter of fact, with a laugh, and like puts his hand on your shoulder, just kind of like, from all that poetry, just kind of like, man,
Yeah.
goodness.
He nods, claps your hand with his own, may I?
Yes, you may.
And I feel worse than that. It's that the village was gone before we even got there. I mean, the structures were still standing, but evacuation had already begun. The death count was... We didn't expect them that far north. Usually they come through the thicker part of the swamp, and they took a different route than normal. Just an oversight.
Bruce seems to be pondering something. He goes, and there was no aid that came to the village beyond the brave soldiers of House Lane.
We had been supplied a few weeks ago by House Vespucci. But as for reinforcements, no, there were none.
Bruce seems to look like... He seems to have like a look of betrayal in his face, like he knows, like he knows something, and he takes your hand. May he?
Yes.
He holds it. He goes, I want to show you something.
Of course.
And he takes the lantern and he puts it in the window and he shines it out into the night. And he turns and he tells you, he goes, there was a dispatch from House Vespucci that was supposed to defend that village. Guaranteed. We know because we caught them moving through these lands. And we asked them what their destination was. The very village you named. Now, I have put a light in the window. And my man Jerome will be here shortly to check on us. You can ask him if there was a dispatch from Vespucci or from what house. He will verify the story. Now, I'm not too sure why they wouldn't defend. Perhaps they were moving elsewhere.
Perhaps indeed.
And perhaps they deceived us, which is easy to do. We're not very bright.
I had hoped for something more from Vespucci. Of course, I was surprised to find Lucretia leading the supply chain.
Lucretia was leading the supply chain, Bruce says with like stars in his eyes and then quickly blinks them away.
She was. We supped together and it was encouraging. What you tell me now is something that I may wish to bring up with her next time I'm in the land of bells and ribbons and windows.
You know, there is another land of bells and ribbons and windows. Have you been to the lands of Mercier?
Once or twice. I have.
I
passed
swear,
through.
the hills are made of gold. The grass of emerald. It's the sky a pure sapphire. I have never seen so beautiful a land.
Or so beautiful a ruler?
A
He sort
ruler
of
to
looks at you
be.
knowingly. What?
Yes, there is perhaps only one or two in the world that can rival the beauty of Blanche Mercier. I think between you and Lucretia, it's a three-way tie.
He laughs. I was surprised to find her at the dance so long ago. Do you know how fares her lands since all of this has transpired?
Well, if you were to ask me, I think they're looking for more direction. They're succeeding greatly, and they seem to be prospering at everything they do. But as my house knows, and your house knows very well, victories are short-lived, and a noble house is forever. Lucretia is evidence of that. She is descended from some of the craftiest vipers as well as the sweetest angels, but they have endured the course of time by such a diverse mix of individuals. I believe that Blanche Mercier has the opportunity to be either the great leader of the house or its imminent downfall. That depends on her. I don't know her well, but what I do know is she appears to be genuine. And perhaps fancies you a bit. Come, tell me, who is the better dancer? Blanche or Lucretia? I must know.
Oh, depends on the dance.
Yeah, he says that, and I'm like pouring you a drink.
Blanche is Though I also know little of her. Blanche is creative. She's adaptable. And that is extremely beneficial in the dance. But Lucretia, of course, and I are quite familiar. And familiarity is also beneficial in a dance partner. And what of you, Bruce? You danced with Lucretia for a short while.
She commands the dance floor, both in the movements of the dance and in timbre of the room. The mood rests on Lucretia's shoulders, fair as
That
though they
does.
may be. And Bruce thinks back to the evening shared with Blanche. He goes, but if I was to converse with one or the other, open my heart to one, share my soul, Blanche is the individual to do it with. She's trustworthy. Not that Lucretia isn't, but I worry that she memorizes every word I speak and could twist it to her advantage. For better or for worse, she'd probably make me look to be much better than I actually am, and my stock would rise when safeguarded and with Lucretia controlling the investments of that stock. But there's something special about Blanche. Anywho, I've said too much.
Look at us.
Did you know these jokers sent me down there to ask one of them to marry me?
Did you?
No, but I lied and told them I did. I had to make up a princess.
Which
A
one
fiction.
did you? Which one did you say?
I did not mention either of their names. I had to fabricate a name. One of those old biblical names that you find in the scrolls buried deep within the palace walls.
Of course. Of course. You know, my uncle would be quite pleased if he could marry me off as well. Look at us.
Oh, wise
Two-
uncle. Oh, wise
What?
Uncle Hector. Sorry.
Yeah. Two men with the weight of the world on our shoulders, and all we can do is seek the aid of a beautiful woman.
There's more to them than that. But I will say this. They're some of the most talented people I have ever met. And I'm fortunate to know them. And it is frightening how close we are to an impending coronation and an ascension. And there is a good chance that anyone could end up on that throne. And I pray whoever it is that the gods choose justly. And with that, Jerome comes to the door. You're free to ask Jerome to verify the story, but Jerome is also bringing good food for you. It is a traditional dish of House Lane because, well, why not? And with that, Bruce departs into the night.
All right.
And with that, I think we show each other our highest cards.
Oh, again?
I think we show them to each other. I don't know if we actually have. So no one interrupted,
Yeah.
so we end the liaison. If you
Oh, yeah.
part, show...
the highest card in each of your hands.
Yeah.
Maybe just
Okay.
like private message on Zoom chat.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I've sent it to you on Zoom.
All right.
Okay. So very close, eh? All right. So I believe I have the next game, and I'm actually going to choose an intrigue and muster. Boom, boom, boom. And this will shake things up. Let me grab one. So.
Which house are you choosing?
I'm going to choose House Mercier.
Oh.
And essentially, an assassin from House Vespucci was intercepted after... I'll give you a choice. We can either do the Soothsayer, which is intense, like some crazy Holloway crackpot comes down from the mountain, or the assassin from House Vespucci. Which would you prefer?
Let's do the assassin.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like our curse is just like more worms than we want to deal with tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that would be someone other than yourself, would be a sibling or a relative. But,
Yes.
So an assassin from House Vespucci was intercepted after they dispatched a powerful member of House Mercier. So, they killed a member of your house and were captured. So Mercier discards one card and House Vespucci draws one. So Janaya will receive a card and you will discard a card.
Okay.
So that was the dramatic event in the land. Then it will be Lauren's turn.
Okay. Gosh, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? I mean, let's be real. I don't want to do a war, but this would start a war. We're not going to do a war.
Well, if you want, we can expedite a war, and it might
No.
just be...
We haven't. Maybe I think there was a battle though. Maybe can we just say fictionally that happened?
So there's a couple ways that you do this. You can say fictionally there was, but there's a couple games from Firebrands that might be appropriate here. It's not in here, where you do a tactical skirmish. No cards will be on the line. We just decide how many squires you have, and then you either submit or yield. Actually, it's members of your houses. And another way to do it is to just play cards, and whoever has the highest wins the exchange and play till 3.
Just play at literal war. I think I actually want to do a reunion. I want to do a reunion with. No, I want to do a conversation over food with both House Holloway and House Lane. And I think I've invited you to my house with the purpose of trying to win one of you over so that we can fight against House Vespucci, because you two have the military power that we do not have.
Yeah, if anything, okay. So, which game did you choose?
Conversation over food.
Okay.
Look at this Grant just trying to drive us apart, Janaya.
Well, it's the house that did it. It wasn't Lucretia. Of course not.
I would never.
Never. And I think So set up. Everybody present draws a card. So can you deal a card to us? Or
Yeah, I'll drop cards.
Mhm.
Do, 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 do.
I'll take a card.
Then I need to discard one.
Yeah.
While you are discarding,
I'd be nice.
Blanche. Cats are never nice. Blanche is in mourning. That's how she's dressed. She's dressed in the traditional mourning outfit. I think it was her uncle that was killed. No, it was her father that was killed. And she doesn't look like distraught. But she has that kind of like tired grief. Where she's just focusing on what needs to be done. Yeah. How do these northern boys look to us? Look to me.
I think Gerard. This is a bit after the village fell. So he's recuperated a bit, but he is very austere. There's far less ornamentation in his dress than last you saw him. Simple armor. And he brings a gift with him, which is a band of glistening black scales from one of the beasts of the swamp, and he explains as he presents it, and if you will allow, slides it onto your wrist and says, this is a traditional mourning band of House Lane. It speaks of the resilience of our people and reminds us of carrying the things that we lost forward to future victory.
Give me 1 second. I'm just going to reboot the audio driver to see if it's on my side. If you can check your mic cables just to make sure they're in there, because we're getting some crackling for everything except mine. Check, check.
Check.
Sounds cleaner to me.
Hello.
It sounds clean. So it was either my driver or the cables, but it appears to be fixed now. I'm not hearing it.
All right.
All right. Bruce is dressed for battle. Essentially, he is actually armored. And what he brings is a stack of letters from his... It was your father that died?
Yeah.
I have a collection of letters from your father to mine, as well as a few to myself that we had acquired over the years. They're kind of bound, wrapped, and they're placed in a box, and these are going to be given to your family should there need to be any record or accounting of your father. We're turning over these personal writings.
All right. Everybody take the highest card from your hand and show it, and then pull them all together face down. Whoever had the lowest card goes first.
It's a me. Which suit is the highest? Because I know Ronnie and I both got aces. Well, you'll get to go first anyways, because you're a queen.
No, it's the lowest card that goes together.
So which one's the highest? Are aces high or
aces are always high. Hearts
So-
are higher than clubs. Are higher than diamonds. Are higher than spades.
And did you say the lowest goes first?
The player who shows the lowest card goes first. Yes.
So
That's
that
you.
would be you. That would be the queen.
That would be the queen. Wow. Okay. Sorry. I'm playing Window Tetris.
It's hard.
I feel it. I feel it.
Thank you for coming today. I know that I'm asking you to do something difficult. But the insult against my father cannot be against my family. Cannot be let go. I would not like it to come to blows. I would not like to start a war over this. I'm hoping that perhaps if we band together, we can get something out of them, out of House Vespucci, some kind of concession. We can intimidate them into it. The three of us, our houses united together.
Pulling Lane away from the borders of the north is a risky maneuver. Their people need them.
Indeed. It's been a long season.
I know. And House Mercier has had a good harvest, and we are willing to share. I'm hoping that we won't have to pull House Lane away from the northern borders. But I can't do this without you.
I find it interesting, and I don't mean to be rude. The people of House Lane die every day, tragically, brutally. They have lost many. I fear for their people if we pull their leadership, and I fear for their people if we pull their soldiers. Many more will die if we pull them. Are you suggesting that we exodus the members of House Lane into the hills of House Mercier to keep them safe?
Bruce, my father is dead. What would you have me do?
I would have you speak with the head of House Vespucci directly and ask what she would do.
Their actions have proven that they do not value directness.
I don't know if I would judge Lucretia by the actions of her house.
I would not. At the same time, though, I would tread with great caution. Lucretia is brilliant. She is resourceful. And she is compassionate. But she is also deeply committed to the old ways.
That might work to our advantage. I would recommend seeking out Lucretia and asking her what the punishment of the old ways dictate or mandate. And then I would see that those actions are carried out by her hand. It will leave her looking strong, with judgment being wrought upon those. If we march House Lane and House Holloway into the rivers of the lands of Vespucci, there will be war. I know the members of my house, and I know when they see the riches and the treasures of the lands below, they will seek them out and they will take them by force. They'll look to me for leadership, but they are a poisoned people.
By the same token, many within House Lane, especially after sustaining the losses that we have in this season, upon coming to wealthier lands, it will be difficult to quell resentment for those who live well while our children die.
And they are all that stand against the darkness. What would you have us do, Blanche? I'm curious what you would have us do. You ask and we'll do it.
I want you to impose sanctions against House Vespucci.
It's just
You're right, we cannot fight a war against them.
Sanction them from the madness of House Holloway and the monsters of House Lane. We don't have much to sanction them against. Bruce is trying to not laugh, but he thinks of all. He goes, do you want us to barricade them from the rightful mines that they purchased from us in our mountains? You ask and we'll do it, but there's not much we have to... Do you want us to block the roads with our armies and impress their soldiers?
Both of you. So...
Sorry, you have the poor kids on your side.
I know. And the poor kids who don't understand that... Whether or not you have anything to offer House Vespucci, I have things to offer House Vespucci. If House Mercier imposes sanctions against them and you support me, then it will be our three houses against their house. And you know that House Mercier will continue to support House Holloway and House Lane as I have been doing.
We see eye to eye now. We will look to Mercier for support and put our faith in the fox as opposed to seeking guidance from the dragon of House Vespucci. And we will continue to do that and offer the support and not look to them. And perhaps if they call for our aid, we shall not answer that call.
All I need is to know that if Lucretia Vespucci asks you to make a move against me and my people, that you will say no. And that will be enough.
Of this you have my word. My fight is not with the people of our land. My fight is against the darkness that seeks to consume it. And anyone who would trifle upon me to draw my sword against another has lost my allegiance.
Okay. Bruce gives the ambiguous medieval answer, "If God wills it," and departs. If God wills it. Because here's, and I'll sort of explain meta for the players because I think it's important that we're all on the same page. Bruce doesn't know why the assassin killed your father, or maybe what things your father had done. He doesn't know why. He doesn't have enough information, and Lucretia might have other evidence. With that said, currently there's no evidence, and it may have been completely wrong, but he doesn't know. He's also scared to death of you and Lucretia.
I mean, yeah.
There's just a poor mountain boy.
I think before he can leave, or as he leaves, I think gosh, what's my name? Blanche stands up, excuses herself to Gerard, and follows Bruce out into the hallway and grabs his arm as he leaves. May I?
You may.
I know I ask a lot, Bruce. I want to thank you for considering my words.
He responds as he always has, "Whatever you ask, I will execute and see through to the end." And with that, nods.
Do you...
No, go ahead.
Is your family still looking to get you married?
He responds with, "That's complicated." And you can tell when Bruce has maybe told some tall tales to his family, and he's probably told them one or two yarns that are not true at all.
Because I can offer that for your support. I know you want these things to take time. I respect that. So I will give you the time you need to answer. But just know that it is on the table.
May he kiss your hand?
Yes.
He kisses your hand and departs.
I'm good to end the scene there if you're good to end the scene there, Gerard, unless you want to.
Gerard's just still eating. He knows when a conversation has gone beyond his depth.
Old Gaston there, you know.
I figured she was out of the room, so he wasn't there while I was like, oh yeah, I'll marry this other person.
All right, I'm gonna hand us cards back that we can take back into our hands. All right. With that, it's Jania's turn.
Well, well now.
Some stuff happened.
Some stuff happened.
It's all Grant's fault.
Usually. God, I can't decide. It's like I only really have one more move left, so I'm trying to figure out like what move to make.
Yeah.
Do we need to talk about some things that are going on and maybe how our characters are feeling? And
Yeah. So, you know, Lucretia plays by the rules of God, and assassination is not within the rules of God. And so the fact that there was an assassin set out onto House Mercier means that there is somebody within her house that is working against what she is trying to do, which I think rattles her a lot because it makes her extremely angry. And so in one sense, there's like this desire to just flee to House Mercier and like somehow atone for her house to keep God on the side of her house.
They have a cathedral.
It's
No,
true.
they do.
It's true.
It's
House
in the
Mercier
fiction.
has a beautiful
A
cathedral.
massive cathedral built to the gods. It's amazing. It's the finest work of art. So that works in the fiction.
Yeah. So
And Blanche is just like hurting and angry. And
Right.
so, you know, like that could mend things. Like,
So I guess what I'd like to do, and I don't know what game this would be, is I would like to steal away to this cathedral and have my spies somehow sneak me in to when Blanche is doing her prayers.
I think that would probably be like a stealing time together.
It can
Because
be,
it doesn't,
or
yeah.
a reunion,
Or a
and then you can
reunion,
talk
yeah.
about it. And yeah, so the reunion, you would ask the opening question when you last saw each other. You'd ask a reunion question, then decide if you want to go into another game. But you can also freeform role playing in between all those gaps. So you don't like have to meet sword to sword if you don't want to.
yeah.
Although that would be rad. Sword fight in the church. Yeah, so I guess we could do it as a reunion.
Okay.
Because that is what it is. It's like an intentional coming back together and reestablishing things.
And I like that it was this like, you know, it's almost like, I mean, I don't know how Catholic we want to get, but like the like confession booth meeting.
Yeah, totally that kind of a thing. And I think it's not actually the confession booth because that feels incredibly cramped. But I imagine that you have your family chapel off to one side of the cathedral, your prayer chapel, and you've finished confession and you've done communion, and you're just there, kind of like trying to put together your feelings and your understanding of the situation.
Like lighting a candle for my father and
Yes. And I think as you're lighting a candle, a hand comes from behind you with a match and lights a candle next to it.
So I think at church, separate to separate to what we were seeing before when she was kind of like holding it together, she's like recently not held it together. She's okay. She's calmer now, but it's very obvious that she has been crying quite a bit before you came.
I think Lucretia is dressed very simply. She has a cloak on. You can tell that she's a little bit more worn than last you saw her. And it's unclear if it's the journey or the emotional stress, but she just looks older somehow. Whereas she normally sort of radiates, she's just sort of dull. And she looks at your face and goes down to one knee and bows her head and says, "I'm very sorry for your loss."
Lucretia, why are you here?
I didn't know what else to do. I always know what to do, but this time I didn't know what to do. My family has wronged you, Blanche. And I don't understand why. And I don't know who. And nobody seems to be able to unearth this weed in my house. But I believe that God will not show me this weed until I atone for what my family has done to you. And my family will not come to you, but I am here.
I suspect it was that they didn't want my father to be king. Thank you for the apology. I know that you are too good and honorable to resort to those matters.
She looks up and says, "May I stand?"
You may.
She stands up. No person is good, Blanche Mercier. But I believe that following the rules that are handed to us can make us good in action, no matter what we carry in our hearts. But these actions that were taken against your house, they undo chances of goodness.
In those, oh, sorry.
I don't know what to do with myself here. I only got so far as the plans to get here and to say that I was sorry. She's nervous to see you. As she looks at you and smiles, do you return her smile?
I do. And I take your hand, or I offer my hand to you. In those days, we fought and jibed, but I always trusted you, and I wonder whether I can trust you still. Do you give me the old secret look?
I do.
I say, well, then let us show that we are better than those who would seek to separate us. And that we are stronger and more good.
Do you know why this thing was done? Do you have any idea? It was not to stop your father from being king. No one thought he would be king.
I do not. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm like looking at the questions and I'm like, none of these work. And
None of these work. I think we could just end.
I was
the
about to
con-
say, if you don't end it, like, Bruce is tempted to interrupt here.
I mean, he
Like,
can't. Please,
Yeah.
please save us from this indecision.
Yeah, I think that's what happens. I think Bruce shows up at the cathedral. And I don't know if we want to do another game or not, but it's getting a little late, and I'm wondering if maybe we move to the coronation. It's just kind of like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, everyone is gathering in... So we've referred to informally and formally on some of these streams as Vespucci and Mercier as the kissing houses because they face each other in the geography. So there's the rivers and the beauty of the lands that are Vespucci. They have these mines, etc. Then there's the beautiful hills and golden fields of Mercier. And these houses have faced each other. There's the two most beautiful palaces in the land. Then there's the ugly, dreadful lands of the north where House Lane and House Holloway live. It's true.
They're not ugly and dreadful.
I don't
mean,
know.
House Lane is pretty bad, but-
Charred tundra with monsters coming up out of the swamps. That's how we described it. There's something nice
Pretty.
about it. We have geese. But, yeah, and I think at this point, and you don't need to show me the heist cards in your hand, because we're going to get there in a second anyways. I believe there's an interruption where... Bruce and Lane have arrived, and in this cathedral, they're going to determine who the next sovereign will be. If everyone consents to that. If we want to have another game before that, we can have one. If not, it does take a little bit of time to go through this coronation. I want to make sure we have time to decompress properly
Yeah.
after the game as well.
Yeah, I'm okay with going to coronation.
So everybody draw one last card. I'm going to deal one card to everyone. Remember, we still want to discard down to 5. So I'm going to pass cards to everybody. And then choose a card to get rid of. And...
Interesting.
And with that, we start to reveal our hands. Oh, Don. And then this will determine who the oops. So first things first. So we just lay them out there and flip them. I think first it's most... Whoever has the most face cards and the highest value face cards
Yes.
will be crowned. Then whoever has the most suits will be the House Ascendant. So, is hearts or diamonds higher?
Diamonds. is
Hearts are higher.
Okay.
high. Oh, really? I thought it said diamonds was the highest.
It changes
Different
per game.
games.
Oh.
Hearts are higher than spades, are higher than clubs, are higher than diamonds.
Okay, so if you have any jacks or twos, pull them aside during this, just in case, because you may want to play those later. You don't have to though. They still count to your face card totals. But so Bruce will end up ascending to the throne and being
Oh
coronated.
my gosh. Yeah, look at you.
I know. A widely traveled vagabond. And so we'll talk through this, then decide whether or not. So the heir assumptant is crowned, and then I must answer some questions. So, what is the nature of this ceremony? I believe the ceremony is one where it's the same ceremony that has been performed by House Vespucci. um, uh, for centuries, since time immemorial. And essentially, we wanted to make sure that the old ways were honored, despite all the intrigue, strife, and turmoil. Um, that we still pay respect and dues to the powers that forged the nation. With that said, there is a much greater emphasis put on music. And the coronation song, the one change we made to the ceremony was, instead of the traditional hymn, it would be Branyan's song would be played. As kind of the single controversial moment. And all houses are invited to attend. None are forced. And then anyone else can ask any other details. And then everyone else gets to decide who personally attended and who personally will support
Did
the new
we
crown.
figure out the House Ascendant?
We do that after this.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So, which of us personally attend the ceremony? Blanche will.
And
Gerard.
and for sure, I know the House Ascendant is Vespucci.
Yeah.
Vespucci will rise in power.
I definitely do attend the coronation.
Okay.
Which of us will personally support the new crown?
My boy.
Yeah, Knuckles.
The bros.
The bros. And the age of bros had begun.
This is gonna be the weirdest Unrestful Hearts game ever. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what Blanche would do. What would Lucretia do? Would you personally support?
She does not personally support, but she also does not interfere. And she's very polite and observes all the rights of support that are required of her. But there are things that are noticeable, like she wears no, pardon me, she wears no makeup to the coronation. And there's just like a way of being that shows a reticence and a sadness to her that interferes with her truly showing her support.
Blanche is still in mourning, and has discovered very quickly that her offer of marriage to save House Holloway might now be
No, I want to add that you were in mourning, offered yourself in marriage to me, and said you were going to give me time to think about it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's that like her offer of marriage to save House Holloway has now like become like the tables have turned very, very suddenly. And so I think she does support this new or King Bruce.
King Bruce, and here's the thing with King Bruce. The idea there is we're very dependent on House Vespucci still, because House Holloway is still bankrupt. They are the most poverty-stricken people.
Yeah,
they have a
so
king,
I think she is openly like in support and offering, because they could still get gain from her family's wealth, and like she could gain a lot more power.
all
So,
right.
like it's a much better match for her now.
So we have a couple of. So we have questions for both Janaya and we have questions for me now. Janaya's house, House Vespucci, is the ascending house. So even though we started the game, Vespucci was in decline, they're actually coming to greater power and prominence. And when you think about it, they own all of the mines of House Holloway. And now they have, King Holloway sitting on the throne. Will your house, and this is your house in general, not you personally as a character, will your house serve the new crown, support the new crown, call the new crown to heel, or openly oppose the new crown?
I think that my house as a whole supports the new crown. And I think it's very much the same way that Lucretia does. They support the new crown in action, but there's definitely, and I don't know if this would be calling the new crown to heel, but there's certainly all of the bankers from Vespucci come in to re-audit all of the mine agreements. All of the lawyers come through and double check all of the papers. There's just kind of this endless reminder that the coin comes from our house.
And it always has, more or less, and all the agreements are still in House Vespucci's favor. And it's actually kind of a good thing because House Holloway has suffered great up there in the mountains, and now they actually have trained accountants and lawyers that are keeping on top of everything. So they see it as a positive.
Really? Really?
I think our cats have just been like, mine has literally been eating my hand, just gnawing on it the entire coronation.
So, now, do I honor or glorify House Vespucci, look to them for leadership, grant them due respect, defy them to do their worst, outlaw them and try to break them? I'm not going to do that. They're an ancient house. I think we grant them their due respect. They are ascending, but I don't think we look to them for leadership. I think the Council of Royal Advisors, if you've followed all the other broadcasts that have existed in House Vespucci for centuries, has been completely abolished. A number of them have been hanged publicly. This has nothing to do with the way Janaya played the game. I'm kind of taking some retribution on some past villains. And those individuals have been replaced by members of all house. So there's members of House Lane, members of House Vespucci, members of House Mercier. The rising generation is given those positions. And I believe we would invite Lucretia to sit on that council and be a royal advisor. Likewise, we would have invited Blanche or a member of Blanche's family to be on that council. King Holloway is still young, and he may not survive to get married, as we're going to move to the Doom card phase. So if anyone has any 2s or jacks, you can play them, and they're going to cause some bad things to happen in the kingdom. I have 2. I want to look to see what they do.
Oh. Interesting. Good thing the Jack of Spades is not on the table.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to play the 2 of Hearts, where a new faith. So there's this... So I've played the 2 of Hearts. So an outlandish new faith takes hold among the people of Cascada, who abandon in great numbers the gods of their ancestors. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean my house or my character caused that to come to be, but there is like a rising, and I think it's rising out of the lands to the north. In those House Lane and House Holloway are seeing large conversions to this new
Are they
faith.
worshiping the monsters?
When you think about it, there were like these elder god type beings that lived in that mountain, and it Lane and
May I?
yes.
There is a legend that started in Whispers of the Soldiers after what Gerard and Lucretia spoke of the god of monsters,
I
an unseen force that controls them, and there's a worship that breaks out among the people.
I've been calling the monsters the children of the calamity, because that's what the calamity is, what ruined the land and made the monsters appear. So that's, I don't know, that's something to think about. But I like that. Is anybody else going to play their Doom cards?
I don't have any Doom cards.
So you have there's a Jack of Hearts and there's a Jack of Diamonds.
The Jack of Hearts is another heir.
Discovers a
Undeniable.
new and undeniably legitimate claim. I feel like it would be hard to find an undeniably legitimate claim in this.
No, I agree completely.
Yeah. See, I have the Jack of Diamonds. The new crown bankrupts their house and they must go begging to the other noble families for
We're already
support.
bankrupt.
Which is like, they're all pretty much already that.
That's how we started. That's why I came down to get married.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, no, I won't play it. I think since we're going on in this, like we're hitting save on this world state and going on, I don't want too much Doom.
Yeah.
So it's not just like, post-apocalyptic Cascado.
Yeah. Well, we passed on those. So what we're going to do is Bruce Holloway, King Holloway, good King Holloway, within a year falls ill and can no longer rule, and it's left to the ruling council. He is still alive. He's just ill, not dead. So it's one of those things where his health is in very poor condition. So when we begin Unrestful Hearts, we know that the king lies dying or on the brink of death, and the council of houses are left ruling in the monarch's stead.
Interesting.
Which may have characters from here or elsewhere. And a good adventures to figure out how to restore the good king's health. Grail quest, all that. So that's the game.
Man.
Can I do the 1 year later? Because I do have one more scene.
Oh, yeah. We got to do 1 year later. I apologize. So now we go around and we'll talk about 1 year later where we are. King Holloway lies dying on his bed, but could recover and pull through if a miracle occurs.
Then does it go to Blanche?
Yeah. So what happened was Blanche's offer, like, was she turned down, or was it just like he got sick and couldn't deal with it anymore?
He wanted to say yes, but essentially fell ill to the point where he couldn't speak anymore before he could accept. And his plans are to accept, except right now he's in a more or less a comatose state.
Was this... Oh, this is a second different new cat to come and bother me. Was this like a political move or out of affection?
It was out of affection. I mean, his heart was kind of torn between all three of you, and he figured you were the one that asked him, and he has a hard time asking people to marry him. I think he proposed once to someone a long time ago. They said no, and then he started wandering the countryside for 7 years.
As you do. Okay, yeah. In that case, Blanche has I think, been like visiting Bruce like every day and after every meeting, and like speaks through the updates, like, and the decisions, and when he can talk, she'll ask his opinion and his input, and when he can't, she'll just tell him what's going on. But I think she tries her best to like kind of make him feel like he is still king.
Oh, I think it's your turn first. Sorry.
Yeah, it's Jania's turn.
So I think a year later, we see Lucretia going through her duties of running the house. I think that she did eventually find who had sent the assassin, but she did not find out why. And she had that person very quietly put to death and let Blanche know. And we see her going throughout her duties, and then at the end of the day, returning to her chapel, where she rolls up her sleeves and cuts her arm and bleeds into the dish and pours it in front of the altar and begs for forgiveness because she can't hear the voice of God anymore since Bruce was crowned king. And she believes that somehow God has forsaken the land because she was not good enough to put the divinely rightful family back on the throne.
Oh my gosh. I was going to say, I think Blanche and Lucretia remain friends.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that it's a we know we can't ever be fully on one another's sides professionally.
Yeah.
But that we always wish we could be on one another's side, like, forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the morning, there is a pounding on Lucretia's door. And Gerard is there. In the full ornamentation of their first dance. And he says, I am not a man who is good with words, so let me say my piece and then you may send me away. The land is in turmoil. The gods have been forsaken. The children of the calamity are worshipped as though they are something beyond the demons that they are. Our king lies ill to the point of death. My friend, my best friend, is dying. I have nothing to cling to in this world except my sword and your hand. Lucretia, marry me. There is nothing else in this world that makes sense, and I need to know that in the days to come, the goodness and the purity of your heart will continue to bring light to the lands of House Lane.
I think she lifts you up and takes your hands, and she looks, are you wearing her holy symbol?
Absolutely. Never took it off.
Gerard, nothing would make me happier. But your land, it needs God on its side, and God has forsaken me.
Oh, Lucretia, God has not forsaken you. Your heart is so full of sorrow. God cannot speak through a fog of impenetrable darkness that is self-imposed. see the sun again. With me. And perhaps one day you will hear that voice. But even if you do not, your wisdom will help me hear it clearly. And we will guide this land into the light together.
I will take that journey with you, Gerard.
And he kisses her.
And she kisses him back.
And so they rode out of our lives forever. And that is the king is dead.
Yeah, that's the queen is dead. Thank you so much for watching. I know we ran late, so thank you for watching, and thank you for the players who ran late. Gosh, we have a lot to work on. As far as moving into our new game, Unrestful Hearts, which is what we'll be playing next week and probably for the next couple weeks. I am working on getting some summaries up to put on my website as far as how to put all of this together. There will be some family trees and some relationship maps probably. But why don't we let Ronnie and Janaya talk about all the cool stuff that they do. Ronnie.
You can find me on Rabid Ronnie on Twitter. This is probably my first or second full stream. I don't get the opportunity much, but I absolutely love playing games. You can find me yelling about D&D and Pokemon and all of my amazingly talented friends. And yeah, you can drop me a line whenever. And you can find me on Discord in the various places that you find these incredible people. And thank you guys so much for having me.
Janaya, where can we find you and all the cool stuff you do?
My name is Janaya, and I make art and play good games with nice people. If you're a nice person who needs someone to play good games with you, you should follow me on Twitter and ask me to play. I also am starting a group called the Tea Salon, which is making the art world open up to greater, broader conversations. And next Tuesday, I'm going to be starting a 3-part series on the importance of ornamentation and fiddly bits in art, called Gilding the Revolution. So if you follow me on Twitter or follow me on Twitch, you will hear about that. And I am at Janaya everywhere.
Grant, do you have anything you want to shout out this week?
I probably have stuff that I'm supposed to shout out, but the big thing for me is I have a bunch of books getting published right now. If you follow 2C Gaming on Twitter, 2 of them that are I'm very proud of are the TPK Handbook Volume 2 and the TPK Bestiary, which are 2 supplements for Dungeons & Dragons, which I don't typically design for, but I contributed several chapters to both of those supplements. There is a book coming out from Monty Cook Games called The Essence of Invisible Sun that I'm a contributing author on. They hired a bunch of artists, philosophers, etc. To write about the game, and I was very happy to contribute to that project. So check it out by Monty Cook Games. And on May 29th on WebDM show, I will be running Quest RPG by TC. And we have an excellent cast where Little Cup of Joe, Sintel, Sharang Biswas, the game designer, and Burst of Hope, Jess Meyer, are going to come out and play a fun, simple, streamlined, narrative-heavy storytelling RPG where we're going to kill monsters and loot the room.
Wonderful. And I am Lauren. I am the Starving Soubrette. This is my channel, so you know who I am, obviously. We are gonna be here back next week, obviously. And then on this channel on Wednesdays, we'll be finishing up Quill White Box. And then going on to something new and exciting. Other than that, you can find me streaming on other places on the internet. Check my pinned tweet for the most up-to-date information with that. If you have any questions, I'm JL_Nice on Twitter. Or want to suggest games that might work for Half-Stick of Shadows or might work for my solo game streams, please hit me up with that. And yeah, I think I sometimes, you know, some channels have like fancy catchphrases. I don't know if I have a fancy catchphrase yet, but fancy catchphrase. Take us out, Grant.